How the most controversial film ever made influenced a whole country until today. In 1915, the first American blockbuster was released. It shocked America and shaped the American society until today. The Birth of a Nation, previously called 𝘾𝙝𝙖𝙥𝙩𝙚, was the highest grossing movie of all time, but also the first motion picture to be screened inside the White House by President Woodrow Wilson, his family, and members of his cabinet. D.W. Griffith, the director, pioneered screen cinematographic techniques and narrative format with the use of close-up and fade-out, including a carefully staged battle sequence with hundreds of extras made to look like thousands. Not only the film was a pioneer in many aspects, it was controversial before its release. Mixing fiction and history, the film covers several years of the history of the USA, the Civil War, the Reconstruction, and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln by John Wilkes. It is based on the second book of the Ku Klux Klan trilogy called The 𝘾𝙝𝙗𝙗, an historical romance of the KKK published in 1905 by Thomas Dixon Jr. The book is dedicated to his uncle, Colonel Leroy McCaffey, a politician and member of the first Ku Klux Klan. It is a racist and violent white supremacist organization that targets black people, Jewish communities, and Catholics in the USA. At the time of the release of the film, the Ku Klux Klan is considered as a terrorist organization. The film covers the relationship between two opposing families, the pro-Union in the north, called the Stonemans, and the pro-Confederacy in the south, called the Camerons. The film portrays black characters as unintelligent, uncivilized, and as dangerous predators. It also portrays the Ku Klux Klan hate group as heroic. The Los Angeles Times called it the greatest picture ever made and the greatest drama ever filmed. President Woodrow Wilson's alleged quote, "It is like writing history with lightning. My only regret is that it is also terribly true." The New Republic, however, called it aggressively vicious and defamatory and a spiritual assassination. The NAACP petitioned the National Board of Censorship to ban the film, and when that effort failed, the organization continued petitioning for the most outrageous and inaccurate scenes to be removed. During 1915 and 1916, activists protested showings of the film in their town, but Birth of a Nation was seen by an estimated 200 million Americans by 1946. So how can a movie revive violence and divide a whole country? The Birth of a Nation isn't only beautifully representing a false narrative, it also represents the darkest and oldest ideas and convictions of the South, distorting reality by showing the KKK as a savior and the black communities as dangerous. People were so moved when Flora Cameron, a young white woman from the South who tries to escape a black man who wanted to marry her, that one man shot at the screen in an effort to help her. But she leaps off a cliff to her death, and to avenge such indignities and defend the honor of white womanhood, Ben Stoneman and his noble fellows give birth to the Ku Klux Klan. People were so emotionally involved in the film that they believe it was true. But history is different, and we have to dig deeper into the history of the USA to understand why this film distorted reality and had such an impact on many Americans. The American Civil War is opposing the Confederate in the South and the Union in the North. It was an ideological war, two fronts against each other for having different political views of slavery. It started on April 12, 1861, a year after the election of Abraham Lincoln, who was opposed to slavery.
We will not allow the extension of slavery to any state. We will not allow the secession of any state. Above all and before all, the Union must be preserved.
The central and main conflict was whether or not slavery should expand into Western territories or not. In response to the election of Lincoln, 7,000 states seceded from the USA, forming the Confederacy.
Mr. Lincoln, you know ever since John Brown swayed, the South has been infuriated, the East on the verge of revolt, and now New York threatens to quit the Union.
No, New York mustn't do that.
The violent war ended the 26th of May 1865, and the 6th of December, Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery and involuntary servitude with the 13th Amendment. After the American Civil War, called the Reconstruction Era, the idea of the South lived on after the defeat of the Confederates. Southern culture remained deeply racist, and black people who remained in the South faced a dangerous situation. G.G. Griers reported to the Joint Committee on Reconstruction, "There is a kind of innate feeling, a lingering hope among many in the South that slavery will be regalvanized in some shape or other. They try by their laws to make a worse slavery than there was before, as they didn't have the ownership protection from their previous master." It was a wild South. The KKK was rapidly created by Confederate veterans on Christmas 1865. It is the oldest hate group in the United States. It was classified as a terrorist organization with the Enforcement Act of 1871, or commonly called the Ku Klux Klan Act. Various historians have characterized the Klan as America's first terrorist group. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote, "Slavery was not abolished even after the 13th Amendment. There were 4 million freedmen, and most of them on the same plantation doing the same work they did before, except as their work has been interrupted and changed by the upheaval of war. They were getting about the same wages and apparently were going to be subject to slave codes modified only in name. There were among them thousands of fugitives in the camps of the soldier or on the streets of the city, homeless, sick and impoverished. They had been freed practically with no land, no money, and, save in exceptional cases, without legal status and without protection." For white pro-slavery and slaves owner from the South, seeing African Americans free was unbearable in scary times of change. The idea of the Southerners never left after the defeat. Even though slavery was illegal, the idea and hate of the black people still lived on. The film revived all demons of the past. A few months after the first public showing of the film in 1915, the Ku Klux Klan was revived by a Methodist preacher called William Simmons. The Birth of a Nation drove support for the KKK. There was a big spike in lynching and race riots in the months of the film's arrival. Desmond Ang in 2022 said in a report at Harvard Kennedy School, exploiting the film's 5-year roadshow, "I found a sharp spike in lynching and race riot coinciding with its arrival in the county." It showed that the film significantly increased local Klan support in the 1920s. Estimates suggest that the film roadshow was responsible for the induction of 1 million white men in the second KKK. How this film has helped shape a reality? Is it something that was in the mind of thousands of people, but they were too scared to say it out loud? Or has it really helped to reshape the view of white supremacists? Mark Twain said, "The truth is stranger than fiction." But what happens when fiction becomes a reality? What's incredible is that a lot of the practices of the revived KKK were essentially inventions of the film. The original Klan didn't wear white hooded robes as uniform. They also didn't burn crosses, but the Birth of a Nation presented both practices as tradition of the original Klan. Then, when Simmons revived the group, he burned the cross, the first recorded instance of cross burning in the US, and had everyone wear these white robes. It seems like the movie played a huge role in boosting the popularity of the Klan, something William Simmons himself acknowledged. The Birth of a Nation revived ideas deeply rooted in the South ideology. Roadshow counties continue to experience higher rates of hate crime and hate groups a century later. Until today, states of the South are more likely to be racist and violent against minority. The film shows how easily history can be distorted and people manipulated. It reopened the wound of the war, the defeat of the South, and reinvigorated the racist convictions of white supremacists to use violence against minorities. The Birth of a Nation is a case study in how powerful storytelling can shape public perception, normalize dangerous ideology, and even rewrite collective memory. It wasn't just a film, it was a turning point. It showed us that media doesn't just reflect history, it can reshape it, distort it, and weaponize it. In a world where images go viral and stories move faster than facts, its legacy is a warning. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't a lie told with hate, it's a lie told beautifully. And if we forget how powerful a story can deceive, we risk letting history repeat itself. Remembering this film isn't about erasing the past, it's about understanding the present. We have a responsibility to tell better stories and truer ones in order to understand our past for a better future. If you want to know more about this subject, I've selected 3 films to watch: Glory by 𝘾𝙗𝙖𝙥𝙯 about the Civil War, Lincoln by Steven Spielberg, and Mississippi Burning by Alan Parker about the KKK in the 60s. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and I see you on the next one.